Well, then I would like to continue with the next item of the agenda. Now we have planned a discussion round on the topic of a climate-neutral economy, how to achieve this change successfully. I would like to ask representatives of politics and administration. I would like to ask Mrs. Elisa Ferreira, Commissioner for Cohesion and Reforms, Mr. Tocznik, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Forestry, Region and Water Management, Martin Eichtinger, Regional Councillor, and Peter Hanke, Executive City Councillor. I would like to do 3 question rounds with you so that you can also allocate your time.
Translation. Does it work? Yeah. Okay, it's working.
So the first question I would like to ask you now, my impression is that my microphone is not working. I would like to ask this question. I would like to ask you all of this question. What are the core requirements for a just transition in the broadest sense from your respective field of work? So the 3 main requirements for a just transition from the political perspectives you are sharing with us. I would like to start with you, Commissioner.
Well, thank you for the question, because it may be useful to address what are the components that you've got to have there. I think first of all you need to understand the region, which means researching on it, trying to understand what are the risks when you refit, when you change your business model, your economy, what are in fact the risks that you are facing, what is the potential that you have there or that you can create for new jobs, for adaptation to new technologies, and so to understand the region, and then to have this capacity to combine the local with the central or regional, so that in fact you have, when you define an objective, that then you can bring in the instruments that make it work, that really can put in practice this transition. So in a nutshell, I think the quality of the diagnosis, the quality of the vision where you want to go, because there is no good wind if you don't know where you want to go. So where you want to go, and then the governance combining in the right proportion local, regional, central. It varies from country to country, but to combine the instruments, so the governance of the whole process. It is also important that we don't only concentrate in the vision and proposals. It is important that this discussion, this dialogue with the community follows the monitoring of the implementation of what we actually do, so that you can correct your agenda if you need to, and that you are permanently monitoring how far you are going according to the targets you have set yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Herr Stadtrat, wie ist das denn für eine große...
Thank you very much, Mr. City Councillor. For a big city like Vienna, Madam Commissioner has already mentioned different levels. Now, what's the situation from your perspective? Let me say very briefly, following the 2 keynotes, I think everything has been said very intensively, so I thank you very much for that, because it has really expressed everything very well. But for a city like Vienna, it's very simply said, we need a plan which spans several years. As we know, in Vienna we did one thing. We have worked out a smart city framework strategy which has a very long-term horizon, and we did one thing just a short time ago. We added one thing, that is the smart climate framework plan. This is what we made from this, and I think this is really a symbol, a sign where we can show and prove that from an economic, from an ecological and social perspective, we are playing together, that we go bottom up and top down, and we also take a city with us, and that on all levels we try to include all projects and to bring people on board forward to focus on the people, with digitalization being viewed as the possibility to enable them as a normal interface. So it's not to wait and to be insecure, and what we definitely need is training and education. I think Vienna has gone a very interesting and exciting way here. We are the biggest German-speaking university city. We have more than 20 universities, and we have more than 200,000 young people. And these 200,000 young people are very creative, and we need to win these young people to work for the project of Europe. And in urban regions, we have a totally different opportunity to do so, that is, to do this in a concentrated way, and to implement this transition towards renewable energy sources. And one important thing is mobility. I think Vienna has taken a huge step forward over the last decades. We have a great network here. We have a great social network with 365 euros per annual price for the ticket for public transport, and until 2040 we are working on this very intensively, also in an area concerning living, and we need exactly these projects, and we need all the projects you have mentioned, which are working very well. And Martin Sellmeier is a kind of translator or interpreter of many important topics, and when we see this panel today, it's very clear we're doing this in the eastern region, and here we have many opportunities to support each other individually, because here we have a totally different starting point. We need to make use of this. Thank you very much, Mr. City Councillor. Let's stay in the eastern region. Let's continue with Lower Austria, Mr. Councillor. Yes, thank you very much. When I look at the three levels we need to tackle, then first of all, it's definitely a plan and a strategy. So on a European level, we have this on a European level with the Green Deal. We have it on a national level with the climate issues, and as Mr. City Councillor has already said correctly, we are implementing it also on a regional level. But the main thing is to do something in concrete terms, so to prompt all public actors to work on these plans and strategies. But we also need intermediaries like Mr. Fred Klux. We need persons who are able to raise awareness for this transformation and to enthuse them, to provide guidance, to provide support, to create the framework conditions, and to make sure that both companies and their employees are willing and prepared to carry this transformation. And for this, in my view, it's very important that all the plans and strategies are not too much over-regulated, that they're not too complex, that they are practicable and can be understood by people. I would like to mention two examples from Lower Austria, which we have already done, which others have not done yet. So we have the SDGs mentioned already today. We have implemented them in our climate plan. So with this, we have even won an award. We are now at the second SDG forum. We have been introduced as a lighthouse project here. I think it's very important to break down these SDGs into national and regional plans of implementation. And the second thing is the following. Within the framework of our huge Wachau European Conference, we are organizing kinds of saloons or workshops where we have discussions with our citizens. So we have also introduced a huge process where we bring citizens on board to actively get engaged in the discussion. I think this is also an element which we can also contribute from our side. Thank you very much, Mr. Councillor. So enthusing people for this transformation is very important, and it's not easy to reach. How do we proceed with this on a federal level, Mr. Minister? I don't know whether this is being done on a federal level. I think Madam Commissioner, when she was talking about the revolution, and Mr. Lux has also talked about a change, a fundamental change. I think we need more courage. We need to be brave, courageous, because also the plan of the Commission is courageous, and we need to start with implementation. We need to be brave enough to think back, and we tend to say, well, in the past, everything used to be complicated, and small steps will not bring us towards our goals. So we need more courage to start with things and to think unconventionally. And here I would like to thank Madam Commissioner for praising us for our cooperation. I think we have, thanks to the good collaboration between the federal provinces and the federal state, we have worked out a good model where we have also created a framework condition in collaboration, close collaboration with the Commission. And now the most important thing is to bring companies on board. And what we need as a third element, we need a good communication. We need to communicate everything correctly with everyone. We need to talk about this. We need to go to the communities, to the municipalities. We need to come to the companies. We need to show them the possibilities, the opportunities. This is also hard work, and we need to invest work into communication to make sure that this offer we have created here in Austria, the Commission, federal level and provincial level, regional level, that we can implement everything. And all this requires joint good communication. Many thanks for the first round, Madam Commissioner. I would like to get back to you very briefly. The long-term main topic of the EU is also the Green Deal, with climate neutrality being the major goal. I would like to ask you how is climate neutrality and Commission connected? Where is the context between the two?
In fact, your question is how to implement what we have collectively decided to do. And in fact, cohesion policy, because of this target that we have set to ourselves, I mean, countries and have agreed, Commission has proposed, the European Parliament has agreed. Now, from cohesion policy, that is more or less 1/3 of the little European budget, it's just 1% of total GDP, but in fact, 1/3 of this 1/3 is dedicated to foster projects that can, in practice, implement our targets in what concerns the Green Deal and the climate issue. What does this mean? That we are really willing to participate, to co-finance savings of energy, and we have seen incredible examples. For instance, in some weaker economies, you have hospitals or public buildings, just by changing the environment, the energy content, the energy origin, like solar panels, heat pumps, and insulating the whole building, addressing the energy as a concern, you have savings of energy of 30 to 40%. So there is a huge percentage of saving that we can do by addressing this issue. Cities like Vienna, you can manage the traffic in a much more intelligent way, because if you put artificial intelligence in managing the intensity of the traffic, you save. Also in what choices you make when you renew the public transport system. Are you going to, we can support the renovation of transport if it becomes climate adequate, if it is zero emitting. So we can support that. But also in terms of the research that you do, where you concentrate what is the target that you want to address, what is the message that you tell to our most intelligent people, to our universities, to our centers of research. What do you ask them to concentrate on? And research can really do a massive contribution. Yesterday we just visited an innovative project, this heat pump, that is a kind of innovative, very done here by young people from the university and from this joint work in factories and in the university, and it can save 3/4 of the normal energy that you use to produce heat. So, we are in fact in a revolution, And probably the most important thing, and that's, I think it was important to listen to you, it's in a change in mentality, a change in the way we address issues. So we want really to use to foster growth and convergence, but to do it in another perspective, in another methodology that takes environment at the core and the energy at the core of our vision and of our work. And for this, people are at the core of the agenda. What people think, what people want, what people can produce, what is the value added that people and training and research can bring into the way we do things. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Ich habe da jetzt sehr viel.
Now, I have seen a lot of nodding on your part. So, Mr. City Councillor has already been mentioned several times by Madam, Commissioner, and cohesion policy has also been mentioned. So, as a big city, Vienna is also very strongly affected by the climate crisis. Now, what significance does the EVRE Fund has for Vienna? Well, it shows exactly how we can proceed only together, and without EVRE, it would not work, and without private participation of communities and business, it would not work. And I think one of the many nice examples in Vienna is that we have succeeded in becoming the most livable city in the world, for which we have been awarded. But now we need to do everything to reduce our CO2 footprint and to prove that we can even top our previous results. And this brings me back to the previous speaker. We need courage. We need decision strength. We need to make clear that the time for change is now. So we need to decide based on clear plans and business plans, and we need to take our decisions quickly. We have no time, so 2 degrees more surface temperature would be something which we simply do not expect our children and grandchildren to bear. So it's very important to invest, and we are doing this with the EVRE Fund. We have proved this with the biggest heat pump of Europe in Simmering in Vienna. This was a huge effort. More than 140,000 households are meanwhile being decarbonized, supplied with heat, with municipal heating. So 14% of apartments are being supplied, and we are already building the next plant. So we are extending this network. I think this is one of the important answers besides the other one, the one with the mobility. We need to change to set standards here, but we are also moving on other paths, also from a geothermy. So how we can also accelerate a lot in a carbon neutral way. And here it's very important to seek this partnership which proves that Europe is thinking differently and that we have a competitive edge compared to other continents. So either we make it in the next 10 years or we are no longer on board. So we need to be very honest about that, and we need to communicate this very clearly to decision makers also in business. We must not downplay this, not in politics either. We need these courageous decisions now. Thank you very much. How about the challenges for rather rural areas, Mr. Provincial Councillor, as we have it in Lower Austria? Well, in Lower Austria is the biggest federal province of Austria in terms of size, and this regional fund is a very significant support program, subsidy program for the rural region. So in the past, we have done this very intensively in the last period. We also looked at where our investment focuses are, and all these were practically in the rural regions. So in Lower Austria, the Mostviertel, Waldviertel, southern Lower Austria. So in the past, we have already been living this support for the rural regions. And now the main focus is to promote this in rural regions. And we also have the support that together with Upper Austria, Styria and Carinthia, we get also funds from the transition funds, which are very important for us because together with the region Mostviertel-Eisenwurzel and Lower Austria South. We also have industrial areas where we need to get this switch right, and also many small SMEs are not able, cannot afford to do this, and for this, with the Transition Fund, we are able to provide help here. That is why I'm very grateful to Madam Commissioner for supporting us in this respect. So it is about innovation, it's about networking among SMEs, it's also about links to science. In Lower Austria, we have the system of the Technopoles. We have 4 of them, Wiener Neustadt, Tulln, Krems, Wieselburg, where we also are able to get this support. Altogether, we need to say that the regional fund in the form of the IBW EFRA JTF, when we look at the big funds, it's a smaller fund. However, it is all the more precise in being oriented, or needs to be oriented more precisely in future on the environmental sustainability issues. We want to do this, and I think we have the good preconditions. So with innovations in individual rural regions, we can get forward, we can make a lot of progress. We want to do this, and let me say, in conclusion, in rural regions, we are doing our best to supplement the EFRA funds from the RRF fund, Recovery and Resilience funds. These are the funds we can also use for major projects, and from the regional funds we fund the smaller programs. So we do the detailed work with SMEs. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General Liebel. Your ministry is in charge for cohesions and regional policy. Cohesion policy, sorry. Now, the climate crisis, in terms of the climate crisis, how does this show in your work? Well, we are also responsible for water management, agriculture and forestry, and I think it is quite clear. It's uncontested that climate change is here. We need to do something, irrespective of whether we need to make an effort to reduce the exhaust of climate-damaging gases. But apart from that, we need to invest into climate change. We see this when, as we have heard this morning in the morning news, that this October, since 1726, has been the warmest October in this long period. And this does mean something. So particularly when we look at agriculture and forestry, what consequences climate change has on original production, on production of our foods. So we need to see how we need to change to find new kinds of foods. We need to switch and to change also in forestry. Unfortunately, in the past we have seen dramatic developments in forestry where thousands of hectares have been destroyed by certain beetles, also in Lower Austria in some regions. And here we need to take measures. And if a country which is one of the water-richest countries in Europe, when we see that some regions already reach their limits with the infrastructure we currently have, and which they might be facing problems in securing long-term drinking water supply. We need to promote collaboration between communities and municipalities, and we need to build new ducts, for example. And this is a problem, of course. And in our house, as we are one of, so we have both funds for the rural development and for the EFRA fund. So we play a role in both. So we do our best to bring these two things together as much as possible for climate protection. And for the people outside, they do not care whether they write this or that address on it. The most important thing is that it matches well, and this matching between these major financial instruments, that is for rural development, but also for the development of SMEs, and this collaboration in this region this is a task of which we hope that we will get this right, even given the challenges of climate change, which are becoming more and more difficult. And this is definitely a challenge, and this is why it's called Just Transition Funds, because we need to do something just now. And this is really a huge challenge. Thank you very much to all of you. I would like to ask you a very last question, and of course, you are free to answer. I have had a discussion with Markus Watzak, who's a meteorologist in Austria. He has talked about climate crisis, and he has asked the audience. No, I'm sorry. I can hear a second microphone speaking. The second question is. There was also a question from the audience. What gives us personally hope? Mr. Liebel, may I start with you? What gives hope? Could you give us a brief answer, please? If Mr. Watzak has asked the people, then I say that our hope can only be youth, young people, because what we experience now is an incredible change among employees. We have one of the biggest retirement waves in the past decade. So more and more people are entering the labor markets, the young people. And those young people have a different attitude and they have more life experience, if I may say so. They have had different training opportunities, and when we look at which topics who found a startup, and when we look at what topics are being touched up in here, then it's a huge change compared to what we have had in business so far. So our hope is that the young people will get everything right. So perhaps we need to have a look at it, but this can only be done by young people, because it is also their very future. Thank you very much, Mr. Provincial Councillor. Could you elaborate on that? Yes, I fully agree with that. That it's youth that also requires us to take concrete measures here and now. But I also think that the young people have a totally different mindset and also approaches things differently. What gives me hope personally is the fact that in society we no longer have to discuss that we need an energy autonomy from fossil energy fuels. It's not least the Ukraine war has shown this. This has even accelerated this, but it's absolutely clear that everything is going towards energy autonomy, renewable energies, and we need to push this forward very quickly. But as we said, the sad story of the Ukraine war has given us a strong impulse. And what gives me a lot of hope in this context is the fact that we have both the technologies, we do have them, and secondly, that also, not least thanks to the European Union, we also have the financial funds to implement this transformation towards renewable energy sources. Thank you very much, Mr. Councillor. Mr. City Councillor, well, that we take our decisions today, here, now, and of course that, as I said, we need to bet on the youth. We need university education, and we need to take these decisions now. We need to do these thermal upgrading of buildings. It's not really difficult. Everyone can do this. We need to do this in the next 15 years. So we need to implement photovoltaics. As we said, it must be 100 football fields per year we need to deliver. And then we need to bet on the technologies which are currently being implemented. So as you mentioned geothermal energy, and we need to find a solution for a certain district. So everything where we need strategy and speed, and we need to implement everything in this circulation, and it is up to us to do this, and then we can make sure that the next generations will not feel these 2 additional degrees. And I think this appeals to all of us in our responsibility on a political or social level. We need to tackle this here now. Thank you very much.
Well, in fact, I have hope. I have hope, and speaking last, I think everybody touched upon the critical elements for us to have hope. The first aspect was mentioned was, in fact, the will of the young people. Young people, they have the energy, they have the power, they have the whole life in front of them. And of course, we have got to pay tribute to what they have done, putting environmental issues at the forefront of our society. Because they were really engaged, they are engaged, they know. So this is a source of energy, and that they bring everybody else with them, and all of us, we are aware of where we want to go. The second aspect is, in fact, having this technology capacity. We have proven that, in fact, when we know where we want to go, we can do it. We have invented solutions for all sorts of things, even the pandemic, and we have the capacity, we have the research. The third element is that we have the means, because never in our European history we managed together to get so many funds to stimulate, to redirect things. And in fact, the element that all this, the crucial element for all this to work together is that we discuss, we work together, and that we keep together. And keeping together requires that, in fact, in practice, it's not just a slogan. We leave no one behind. Because, Austria has been able to boost the development of the weakest parts of your economy. So Austria became stronger. The same thing functions for Europe. If we grow together, then we are more solid, we are more robust. We don't have this fracture, this breaking. And if you break apart, you cannot be strong. Because, as I mentioned in the speech, we are as strong as our weakest link. So if we are discussing with each other, so keeping ourselves together, united and focused, I think is the solution. And of course, now we are going through a crisis, but there are lots of lessons that we can learn from this crisis about how we can engage in the globalization in an open way, but also at the same time what we have as Europeans to safeguard so that we have the autonomy and the capacity to move forward without being the victims of other agendas that really will play on our weaknesses. So keep together, keep cohesive, and keep focused and move because we have the conditions to move. That's the reason for my hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Vielen herzlichen Dank Ihnen allen. Ich weiß, Sie haben
Thanks a lot to all of you. I know you have a very tight schedule. You will then be expected upstairs at the press conference. Just one thing I'd like to ask you. Special opportunities also require special rituals. So I'd like to ask you just briefly why you're going downstairs. Well, I call it guest book to sign there, please. So thanks a lot for the inside views you have allowed us to take into your books, and please sign the book. Thanks a lot for being with us.